Welcome on back to part four of Friday of today, of which actually I don't even remember what day it is, but it's on the timestamp. And if I change the title to be something different, I still plan on keeping the timestamp within the description. So, and also you should have a timestamp somewhere in there. So, anyways, my whole point of that is, ooh, that's actually, I was gonna do a couple renovations. We usually just do a bunch of like harvesting and stuff on these, and while we chit chat, but I think I'm actually going to. See. So this is a good way to explain some computer science concepts. So right now, like I am only capable of holding two stacks of wood right now. That's the capability of me right now. So imagine that was a piece of tech. I'm like a flash drive that can hold, okay, 16 gigabytes. Well, not really, but and that's why it cracks me up about 64 because that is like 8 times 8, which there's 8 bits to a byte, and there's 32-bit architecture and 64-bit architecture, meaning that processors can either handle 32 bits or 4 letters at a time, because each letter has to have 1 byte, or one number has to have 1 byte. But see, then you can have like, well, what if the number is like, so it's still like, I don't know. You got to start like looking deeply at like C programming and even C++. There's ways like that you need to be more mindful of exactly how much data is being used for each variable or each piece of the code. Um, That's the other thing too. Like it's all a lot of logical stuff, and I know some people kind of get turned away from just hearing something like, "Oh, that's logical," like, "Oh, that's Spock," or they might have some friction or some bad taste in their mouth for whatever that is. But sorry, I'm just making a lot of of chest. Actually, that's probably good because we're going to increase our produce, basically make a storm. Oh, we should do that. But I wanted to increase the let's talk about this first. So I wanted to increase the capabilities of this. So yes, we have a 9-unit furnace that can cook 9 stacks of things. That's not very good because if you look at here, we have 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which 3, 6, 9. Just to make a double check, just to make sure. Okay, 3 times 9. So just in my storage, not in my quick bar. Like this is like my belt. I kind of consider it like if you ever played Diablo, you have a belt to store quick use items like this, or like close storage if you're talking like computer memory. These would be like the registers. They're what the CPU uses. Like, okay, I want to use melons. Okay, wait, now I want to use an axe. And so it switches between these. What is that, 9 as well? Yeah, because it's 9 because it's the same width as this. So that's how I knew, but I'd still want to go over, like, just make sure all the boxes are uniform. Like, there isn't any surprise, like, oh, there's actually 10. Um, Whatever. So, anyways, and then throughput. So, a cybersecurity issue is a denial of service attack. So, if you're trying to take out a resource, say like a porn website because your country bans porn, and that's why a lot of porn has viruses and malware. Not because shame on you for looking at porn, like our country doesn't care, but some countries do. And see right there, there's like, okay, wait, I didn't even know that. Wait, people are putting malware on my computer. And that's the other thing. Think about people that steal, specifically gift cards. A lot of it comes from India. And I hate that. But opportunity. They have all this tech that they can do that, and they don't think they're going to get caught. But it's funny because we are catching them. But not because I want to punish them, it's because I want it to stop. And I say that because there's a lot of, whoops, where did that go? Oh, okay. Oh, I think I accidentally or a button. Anyways, it received the signal, and hard telling why that is too. Like ghost things or phantom things, like, and not like the melon that just appeared out of nowhere. Sorry, let's go drop this off. Let's make a storeroom. Not in the diorama though. The llama diorama, that should be a whole thing. This is gonna be like a bunch of like, well, like Night at the Museum, how they have like the things come to life, and just have like, yeah, like a little pond, some like grass, maybe a little hill or something, just like a little scene, like a little nativity scene, or not nativity scene, whatever. Like, and actually for now, see, I just keep. This could be the wall of stuff, but it gets kind of tacky. See, like this, I kind of want to replace that. But for lack of an actual structure. See, that's more like an outpost versus an actual base, and I'm talking like all like the war games that I kind of play growing up. Um, Whereas some people, it's not a game. Anyways, let's not. That gets so deep. Some people, it's not a game, and people have to be deep like that to kind of get a message to go across. I get it. I mean, I'm tired of it, but I get it. It'd be easy if just. Oh, and actually, that's the other thing too. Is like just dismissing it is like, oh, I get it. That makes sense. Um, Actually, wait, we don't want to go too far because then I'm going to forget about this and be like, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of melons and pumpkins down here. So, no, we'll still have it here. And that's probably why I started doing it in the stairs and why we're going to do it again. Because, oh, and yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Setting yourself up for success. If you have the time to do something, you should do it. Like if it's something important to you that's going to cause friction down the road, or that could cause friction down the road, just get it done when you got it. Although you gotta be careful and you have to be able to draw the line because I've heard that and let's see. I don't even have, well, let's go ahead and start utilizing some of this storage. So basically, if you were talking like a computer, what I did is I just installed 3 new hard drives or 3 external drives that can hold all of this storage. Like boom. Now it's got all of these melons, pumpkins, melons, whatever. And I know there is a difference, but for the purposes of this game, this situation, they're cubes of an organic nature they can sell for emeralds and make a lot of money. And by that, a lot of resources so you can build more things. And when you start thinking about things in terms of just resources and like what you're trying to do with them and the why, because you really should be thinking about the why, the 5 whys, the who, what, where, when, and why. And how? Wait, who, what, when, where, why? The 5 W's and the H? Anyways, as long as you have a basic understanding of investigative curiosity. But you also have to know your limit to where that doesn't become racism. Because that's where a lot of racism comes from, is you have your investigative curiosity, but then it steps on the toes of your being polite, being kind. Yeah. Human nature. I mean, the way people think. And it's funny because we see these shows and we're like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. But then later it's like, why did that person do that? I wonder. And it's not as black and white as that. And those are the times when I do say like black and white is a thing, because when it's obvious. When it's obvious, or when you're just imagining things. And see, that's the other thing is like, I don't know. And I think a lot of guys, they just default to like whatever. I mean, because at this point, it's like, as long as I'm not going to get in trouble for it. I mean, I don't know. And that's just because we don't have we're not wired that way to think as nurturing by default. Now, oh no, that's an interesting take. Like, just thinking about like transgender and stuff, because when you're getting into that, that's like a whole new realm of I don't know. I mean, like it's, and not saying anything wrong with it too. Like I'm thinking more of like the hydras, like for India. It's like they're kind of like a fixture of society, but they're not really accepted. Like they're there, but then I don't know. It's kind of been explained to me a few different ways, and so I don't really know it for sure. But it sounded like, oh yeah, they're common, they're everywhere, but they're either ignored by the people that care, or there's people that don't care. And see, even that I don't know. And now here in America, it's one or the other. Or no, sorry, I'm making my own straw man argument, or straw person, or whatever. Drawing straws. I'm drawing straws with this answer. There we go. We're just going to say that because I don't even know if that's what this straw man is supposed to even mean. We're drawing straws with this answer. And the straws are, you're either hated, you're loved, neutral, or a wide variety of in between. But those are the extremes. Like, I mean, I was just talking about one of the episodes from today that we had Matthew Shepard who got killed for being gay just up in Wyoming. So, not that far from where I'm at. Like, it's like, oh, in my lifetime, someone was executed by a citizen for who they loved. Like that. And like, granted, I wasn't up here when it happened, but then again, I lived next to, or not right next to, but close to a man that got executed for dealing drugs, like by a citizen. I mean, just I'm not trying to say like, oh, Colorado is so dangerous and everything. Oh, because Wyoming was where, Matthew Shepard. And then New York, it's in relation to how many people there are. If you have people problems, you add more people, you're going to have more problems. And you're going to need more people to manage those problems. And then you're going to have more potential for problems within the people that manage those people. And then it keeps going all the way up until you get so high up that it's just like, well, the way things work up here at the top, it's just, yeah. So that's a tale as old as time. Yet we say these things, we know these things, but then when they happen, we're like, whoa, what? No, not really. It's because we don't know how to handle that. We don't know how to process that. We don't know how to understand that. Like, wait, what just happened? And then, and then even saying things like, I don't know how to process that, they could be meaning like a computer or just like I'm thinking, but then people that maybe didn't go to college or maybe, or whatever, because I hate to say that, like I'm not saying they're stupid, but I'm saying there's a lot that people miss out on when they don't go to higher education. And there's a lot, well, now see, there's a thing too. It's like, it's not that they're not doing anything, because obviously they're working, they're doing stuff, but there's also experience that way too. Because, oh wait, that's actually, see, this is the danger of like, I tried to convert this Badlands into like part of the jungle, and you can see like where the grass is, like, it's like, oh, right here. I mean, it's a little lighter there, then it's a different color there, then it's even a different color, and I'm still curious as to what that is without cheating, without going and looking, because that's what we used to think it was cheating. If you looked at the answer, well, same with learning too, but like I was thinking more like video games, like, but then it's not. Like with Dark Souls games, I have looked at 1,000 guides, like not really, but fighting cowboy. That's why I started watching him, is because like, how do I do this? And then I saw him playing. I was like, wow, he makes it look so easy. And then I started enjoying the game more, and then I started playing more, and then stopped watching him so much. And I was like, all right, what else does he have? And then I saw his Bloodborne videos. Awesome, another one. Like he just played him really well, and I was like, all right, cool. So, anyways. And now we're not even actually doing anything productive. Let's go make that furnace. But I just wanted to talk about that, like throughput. Oh, and actually, I did not set an alarm again. Horrible about that today. All right. But again, I was doing so good and now not. And then people, there's different things going on. It's not an excuse, and maybe that is a good indication. Maybe I should like take a break and go do other things, and I will. But let's see, 27, 54. There we go. And I used to be really good at like simple math like that back when I used a cash register all the time. When I worked at Subway for like 5 years, I learned how to use a cash register. And see, even that, like if you didn't have to work as a kid, you miss out on a lot of things. Like if you didn't have to run a register, I mean, I'm sorry, that's like, and some people think it's privilege. And so then all of a sudden you have to defend yourself against people you don't even know just because of things that were outside of your control. Like I can't help it if I was born into a wealthy family. Yes, you can't help it, but let's see what you're doing to fix it for other people. Because that's the thing, is like, once you realize that you have these advantages, like Americans, I mean, compared to the rest of the world, once we realize we have these advantages, like, it should be human nature to be like, all right, well, let's see. And why isn't it? Well, it's not some big mystery. It's people are people. Let's all say it again. People are people. So the way that people work is if they don't know that they're doing something wrong, then they're not going to change their behavior, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it is the basic way to say it. But if something has worked for you for a while, then, which that's even a dangerous slope. Like we're talking like predators and like, or like serial killer. What's that one? It doesn't matter. There was one that got killed in prison that was like killing kids, but even let's just talk about like a serial killer in general. Like if they do it, they kill somebody and then they get away with it, maybe, and I'm not justifying it, just trying to understand it so like we can prevent it and stop it. Maybe there is a whole Dexter thing, like the ultimate feeling of God, like being justice or a God or the gods, or that feeling of power over someone, and then the remorse and guilt and PTSD of having known that. Like you are now a murderer for life. You can never change that you were a murderer. Ah. But see that right there. So are you a murderer currently, or are you a murderer past tense? Like, because, ooh, see, that's the thing. And because of our punishments for things like murder, it doesn't really matter, because most of the time you'll spend, well, okay, I say that, but it used to be you just get killed. And I think in Texas it's still you just get killed. But that's because that's how they want to solve that problem. Oh wait, we're getting into Mining. Let's do the furnace. We'll do the furnace and then we'll do the throughput because basically the furnace is easy and then we actually have something to show for it. I mean, we do have tons of, but it's just going to keep backing up. And that's a computer science thing too. So if you don't monitor things, it's a very vague thing, but say you're storing data to something, you're storing pictures to the cloud. Well, that cloud is just someone else's computer and that computer has only so much storage. Like I added all this storage just so I can keep doing random nonsense. Ooh, let's take some of that back because that's like my leftovers. And then, wow, did we already burn through that? Yeah, that's good. Funny that that equaled out like that. I don't see any more of this spruce log anywhere. Like it is four perfectly even, and now I have, wow. Okay, anyways. Sorry, and little things like that, just noticing that. Like we have an even number of complete stacks. This is complete, this is complete, this one, this one, this one, this one. All of these are different variations of wood, so they don't count. Anyways, the more you do puzzles, the more you do games, the more your mind thinks like things like that. Like separating things out. Like, okay, this one, have or an incomplete stack and another incomplete stack, both pretty full. I only added one into the mix. I'm gonna do that. That's also how I think of things. When I'm adding numbers, I chop off what's like the left of it. Oh, oops, I don't take the beetroot. Um, so like, and usually it's for like 100 or 10 is how my brain kind of usually works. Like if I'm adding 64 and 64, I would chop this one to whatever complements that to make 100. That's what it is in geometry, like two angles that add up to 180 degrees. They're complementary, I want to say. Or no, there's complementary and then there's supplementary. And one's 90 and one's 180. Or maybe it's 180 and 360. But again, if I needed that information, I would go look it up and learn it until I didn't need it. And just being able to be dynamic like that. So for this one, 64. So we got 36, we would chop it off. So automatically, so 32 and then 1 2 3 4, so to make 36, so that should make an even 100. I mean it doesn't because it's a stack already, so it does make 100 but we wouldn't actually know because it'll just keep doing that. But it's kind of like the rot 13. Like you change it by 13, it's going to go right back because you're changing it by half and then changing it by half again. So all rot 13 is like adding 100 degrees to 100 degree or 180, which is a turn around. So if you're facing forward, you turn around to backwards. And if you're marching, you drop your foot back and then you pivot and then you just get people all confused. Like, wait, what is this guy? What does he do? No, I'm just a nerdy kid nerdy guy now. I'm not a kid. Finally, geez, mid-30s. I feel like I was a kid just like 5 years ago. And then if you do it right, you always feel like a kid, but like more like a responsibility thing. Anyways, furnace, we've got these things, which is what we need to make furnaces, and we have 9. I want to have 64. So now we got to do a little math. So 64 minus 9, I don't know. 63 is like a factor of 9. So if you subtract 9 from 63, that's 72. So 73. Really? Right? No, I need 72. 73. We'll see. We'll test that. So we got 32. Whoops, I knew that was the wrong one. All right, so it was 4. 4 yield 32. Let's try that again, just to make sure. Yep. Now we have a stack. Oh, but we don't need 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ha, see. That's another way to confirm that, yes, we were incorrect because we were thinking 64 minus 9. I did 63 plus 9, which is 63 to 72. And see right there, I just did a variation. So if you get into statistics, that's a standard deviation of 9. So I deviated from the original point 9 units. So I either went 9 up or I went 9 down. I went 9 up when I should have gone 9 down. So either way, we have 9 extra furnaces. And again, see, we were incorrect there. We didn't check our math. And right there, say this was building cars and we only needed 55. Then we just wasted the resources for 9 cars. Well, now we got to get rid of them or eat the loss, which basically means we paid for it, which basically means why should we be doing this if we lost money? So I don't know. All of that still sounds kind of greedy if you don't understand money and economics and business. Or maybe you do. And see, that's the other thing too, is like incomplete starting points. So there, I saw this meme where it's like equity versus equality versus something, and it was just playing around with words, trying to point out the differences. Like the fair thing. So it had like a kid, a medium height person, and a really tall person, and they're all trying to look over a fence to see a game. And there's all these different things you can think about. Like, okay, wait a minute. Even in that picture, did they pay for that game? So if not, then they're cheating the system. Actually, do I want to? How do I want to go about this? I mean, at least that. Let's raise it up there. But let's think about this. So it's going to be, oof. So a 9. And if you were to break it up to length times height to make a perfect square, oh, I don't even know. Like, I think I need to go even, ooh, here's my fancy lounge. I've got all this art. Yes. And again, I don't think I'd ever really care to do that. Or see, I don't know. It's like, who's the biggest leader? Who's the greatest leader? And it's like measured in how much stuff you have. But then when you say it like that, sorry, this was a thing I saw. I saw a candid conversation with Trump and some guy, and Trump was saying, I wish people treated me like they treated Kim Jong-un. And I was just like, oh, that's so messed up. Like, so, okay, well, let's look at that. So Kim Jong-un might not be the reason for a lot of North Korea's issues. Probably isn't. Oh, here's some more famous stuff. I'm just kidding. And what's behind the curtain? I don't know. Probably porn. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was just kidding. We were talking about that, like censorship and malware, and how why porn sites tend to have more malware, or actually have malware, which is annoying because what's right in some parts of the world isn't for others, and so we've got people hacking, trying to do their, and that's called hacktivism, where they think they're doing a good job, they think they're doing what's noble and what they need to be doing. Oops, and there's my cows. Oh yeah, shh. I have a secret stash of cows. Goodbye. There you get emeralds. So already I'm limited to 4 by, and I don't want to go much higher than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 4 by 5, so I only have 20. So already I know that this is good for now. Let's go ahead and increase it to 20. And this is what you do in cybersecurity. That's why I got all excited about wanting to show this, is because if you have a denial of service attack and your network can only hold so much, and say you're hosting a porn site or Disney site or whatever, because when the movie The Interview came out, North Korea attacked the Sony headquarters, and malware and craziness. It was a cyber attack. It was a legit cyber attack. But since cyber is still kind of undecided, like it's a gray area, we didn't like go out guns blazing. We also didn't announce it a lot because we got to be careful. I mean, dudes launching missiles off into the ocean, and I get it why Trump was like trying to reason with this guy, and like, you know, we get it, we hear you, but here's how you're gonna get something. Like, you're not gonna get anywhere doing this. You're gonna, and it's like the, sorry, if you want to break it down to like the smallest level, like think macroeconomics to microeconomics as far as human, sorry, I started talking with my hands a lot there, but like microeconomics to macro, or no, sorry, the other way, macro to micro, the big level picture, we got America, North Korea, China, Russia, BRICS, and then NATO. So like a bunch of countries. I'm even thinking about the illustration if someone were ever to make a cartoon about these things, like, you know, then you just throw in all these other things. Like, so that's basically what we're trying to deal with. We have all these different entities. But let's go down to the micro level. So there was a TV show. It was about a playground, a school playground, and just like the goings-ons at a school playground, at a public school. Like, how rough is it? How, you know, like, what do you got to do to survive? I mean, just things like that. And it was very interesting. And it was like Animal Farm, that book by Orwell, George Orson. Doesn't matter. I could look up Animal Farm and go read it again. But just reading it once gets the point across. Like, you know, it showed human characteristics of animals, and then we were able to analyze those human characteristics further, especially because they were just animals. So right away you're going into it thinking, oh yeah, these are just animals, whatever. And then you give them very humanistic character or human characteristics, and then they start seeming, oh, well, I gotta go watch those animals. I gotta be careful of those animals. I mean, yeah, and but same thing, like how did we end up with the Holocaust? How did we end up with the Nazis? I mean, it was perception. It was either perception of a finite amount of resources in a time where resources were finite, very finite, I mean, now we're talking about harvesting comets and going to Mars and like we're recycling things. And I heard this very optimistic thing about how like 99% of the plastic in America is properly recycled. And so, because I kind of mentioned this a little while ago in these videos, like I was astounded by that. Like I thought it was all America, but now, and that's why I kind of felt guilty and like we should be doing something. We still should, and not because other countries are bad or mean or whatever. Maybe they don't have the infrastructure to deal with that. Ah, but now like we're spending all this money on this infrastructure. Yeah, I think this is gonna be like my furnace room. We're gonna go back in here and just have like, if I want to really kick things up a notch, we gotta go. Whoops, it's almost a one way. We gotta go over here in this hallway, past the whatever this is. I don't need a name for it right now. But anyways, what I'm saying is I'm in no way trying to justify anyone doing these evil things. I'm just trying to explain like this is how it can happen. This is what we got to do to make sure it doesn't happen. And this is why it's not happening right now. Now, granted, that last part's tricky because a lot of the things that we've been seeing, they are like not really marketing. They're like leadership, boss, um, things, good or bad. I mean, and Hitler was very good at leading people and convincing people of stuff. I'm kind of being really generic there because we're having very similar things right now. We're having two sides trying to convince the whole world, basically, because the whole world's kind of watching. Just like with this England stuff. Like, I know I was kind of paying attention to it, but not really. Like, I understand that there's something going on, but that's about as much as I could really dedicate to it. And I guess that's probably true with everywhere. It's like, okay, America's doing some really crazy things, like invading a place for 20 years. Oh, and they just got bombed. What's going on there? And like, because 9/11 was world news. Like, everybody knows about that. But in fact, I saw some meme that I don't know what the intention was, but I know the effect was, and that's the other thing too. We don't understand what effect these things have on people. That's why I also got to kind of be careful too, is like watch at your own risk. Like these things, these videos have a lot of different ideas. So I'm also just exploring, like, what's all back here? We got some mushrooms. We got, oh, I can't climb that. I can climb this though. Oh, and then I think, yep. Well, let's put this here. Let's make this a well lit. Because basically, I'm going to make this whole mountain like a fortress or like a hybrid fortress. And for no particular reason. Like all the war games and stuff I used to play with, you'd be like a bunch of knights and like fighting and trying to vie for control. And then you got to remember a lot of people. This is not where I expected to be, but I have been here before. Because as you can see, this. I just didn't realize that. This is probably one of those things like, oh, I'll explore it later. And now I did. So there we go. We just explored a cave or part of a cave. Anyways, my point being is like people that didn't have technology like I did growing up that are just now finding out about this. Oh, Family Guy. There's a perfect example of that. There's an episode where they're talking about some Middle Eastern person in a hot air balloon blasting like 80s music or 90s music. I think it was 90s music. And it was like, I can't help it. This is the first time hearing this. I love this type of music. It's like, well, yeah, cool. You're a person. I mean, that makes sense. We liked it too back when we heard it first. And that's why, and then people get frustrated at hearing things like, oh, that's so last year. Because some people have some real stress tied to that. Like they took a lot of time and effort to learn the trend. And then, oh, and that's actually kind of like a whiplash event here in America. We have entire generations feeling cheated and left out just because they weren't alive when tech first came out. I mean, that's it. Maybe they don't understand that's why. I mean, actually a lot do, but then people don't. And specifically, I'm talking about helping, not even like the elderly. I'm talking about people my age or higher with tech. Because, and a lot of people watching these are probably youngsters, like, well, maybe not a lot. Ugh, I hope not a lot of like kids. Or died. All right, here we go. Oh, yes, it is low. So it was plugged in, but the other end wasn't plugged in. And not because of me. It was because my kiddos, they have one set of headphones that requires a USB plug, and they were playing this last. So I was like, oh, okay. I plugged in the one part, and see right there, someone that does IT for a living, has a lot of knowledge about IT. Not all of it, mind you. I'm not a god. I'm not some force to reckon with. But I'm like a demigod, like a little bit of force. No, not even demigod, because I create virtual things. Ah, but do they stay virtual? Not really, because the cybersecurity projects I'm working on, they really do work. Like they, now I got to get into like, no, I'm just not going to. We're not going to go deep into that. We'll go into deep into the stuff that I am going to teach until there comes a time when I'm like, yep, take a look at this. Because a lot of it is like, well, I don't even want to go into it. We just won't even say. We'll mine some pumpkins, harvest some pumpkins. Because now I actually am feeling like, oh yeah, good, it's 30. It's like I have a natural timer now that's like knows when it's about close enough. But anyways, that's good for now. I need to go to the store. I need to do some things. I might be back on. I might do some Elden Ring, or I might just take a break and try to edit some of these videos and try to learn another tool. But yeah, I just wanted to explain that. So throughput, and also throughput with people. So be careful who you share these with. If you do enjoy these videos, maybe give them a little preface, and just give them a heads up. Be like, okay, here's this guy, and he says these things. Some of it's really good, some of it's really awful, whatever your opinion is. But then here's the part, and that's why I need to just make a bunch of shorts. But that takes time. I already work a lot. Like I like doing this because it's like playing and working, but then playing and working because then I go write these things down and make a more formal thing. It's still all virtual, like until it's not. Like these political ideals, like, oh yeah, donating half of like. Actually, no. Let's talk about that because I'm going to forget about that. I briefly mentioned that in one of these videos today that I think Mexico and the U.S. should make an agreement where we just donate 5 miles from the border on either side of the uninhabited areas of our borders of where we touch. And then we get as many people as we can. And I can tell you that if we get enough people like upset about immigration or really wanting to do something about it and they're willing to donate money, or their time or their effort, because I'd go down there and I'd build houses. I'd love to do that. Like that would be, and I've built houses, not a lot, and I don't know how to do like anything but the framing, but you know, I can do the framing, and even on some too. I won't jump around on a bunch of high roofs for it. So there's limitations, but we don't have to make them like we can make them, you know, hempcrete, very ghetto, basic, like whatever the cheapest homes are, and just litter the place, fill them with homes, and then fill them with like computer labs, educational things. Now, granted, yes, there's going to be some kids that break some computers or steal some stuff or whatever. Like, there's going to be loss. So we could implement other ways to figure that out, like, and not try to like prevent the loss in a punitive way, like not let them do it. Just let them know. I mean, and then I don't know, just remind them, just be like, hey, this is what this place is. And then at least the parents will do it. And then we got to acknowledge that kids will be kids and, you know, and also parents might even be like a little hostile too, because look at how we're treating this thing. Like, I mean, when they get here, they see the closed border, even if they've heard stories of like what it's like up here, and they get here and then they get all this hate and anger. I mean, and then they have to fear for their jobs, and then they have to like be in hiding while they're working up here. Because that's the thing, is like it's not just a fee, it's not just taking a test. It could take people up to like 30 years. And I don't even get it. Like, it's like there's a bunch of hidden things. Like, it only got, because it's just the processing fee is $1,100. $1,100. So remember, it was 750. That was like over a PlayStation 5. And you're talking about someone who's already in a hard place, like trying to go and do something. And it's like, oh, by the way, you got to pay twice of what a PS5 is. Like now, not only do you got to pay a PS5, you got to buy two of them. And get this, you don't even get to play them. You just spent that money. Oh, hey, thanks. Now we get to file paperwork. Like, and now you get to wait for like 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And it's like people get surprised that they don't use the door. I mean, not saying that I'm advocating for illegal immigration. No, I'm saying let's end illegal immigration and let's open borders, but let's do it smartly. We can't just open the floodgates all at once, as it were, because people might not understand, and then they might be mad because of what it is. And it's also like we wonder why they're mad. All right, I'm gonna go because we can go into like a whole hour of this, and I already did a 40-minute one. So, ta-ta, everybody. Have fun for now, or have a good day if I don't see you again. And then if I'll see you next time. See, I don't know, that sounds weird. This is all still pretty new to me, but all right. See you next time. Ta-ta.